All right. Well, let's begin. Let's begin with this. Thanks for coming, everybody. And we're in the week one together group, pastors together group, right? Here with the Zooms and all that stuff on the Red Letter Challenge. For those who don't know, I went to seminary with this guy. I've seen movies with this guy. I've hung out. I've made fun of his car that he was driving. You know, like that. All these things. Like I know him pretty well. He was in Florida for quite some time. This has actually kind of taken off, and he's now doing this full time. That and speaking. But he was in Mount Dora, at the Cross Mount Dora. He planted that church. There, you know, it's a little north of Orlando. And so he was there. So the nice thing about this is this guy's LCMS, which is great because we don't have a lot of people in the LCMS creating compelling content. That's one of our issues. And so this is definitely compelling. I'm a little bit behind on the train on it. But I've talked to a bunch of pastors, and they said the congregations really love this and got a lot from it. So I think my invitation for everyone here is like, let it go where it takes you. You know, like that's you answer the questions. You know, like that's just if it brings up something difficult, kind of let it simmer in you. Anyway, I have the wrong one here. So that's kind of what today, and today is really just a discussion, kind of discussion about what things mean. You should be on day 3 on your books, or today was day 3. So at some point you can read day 3. So it's very early on and all this stuff. So all this is just an introduction, and for those of you that are new to here, which is BB. That's it. Like that's I have a saying that I say there are such a thing as stupid questions, but usually stupid questions get us to good ones. So ask whatever you want, right? So that's usually that's what happens. Discussion breeds more discussion. So if you want to ask something, it's usually a momentum thing into good stuff. If I talk the whole time, I don't really think that's good. So ask whatever you want. Let's see, we kind of talk. They have some like ground rules things. I think this is important. This is kind of my whole thing with being a pastor is don't try to fix people, preach a sermon, or give unsolicited advice. I'm the only one. I am ordained to preach sermons, so let's not do those. And so let's see. This is a good one too. When I share in the group, I'll share primarily about myself and not others. That's a good one. Although I think it's kind of funny. One of my teaching tactics with the middle schoolers with confirmation is I'll ask them, what do your friends think about this? Which they'll tell me what their friends think, which is what they think. Like that. But it's like a safe way of saying that. Let's see, and so yeah. Also, if we say anything of a personal nature, remember it needs to stay in here, even though it's going to go out to everybody. So if you do say something. Like all of that, let me know, and we can edit things too if we have to. So like that's the way it goes here. But this is a pretty public group, and all of those things. All right, so we're being recorded right now. We're being recorded, and I think I finally figured out how to do this recording stuff because like online it actually looks and sounds. You can hear everyone in the room. You can hear me really well, and that's what's actually what's up. And so and it looks pretty good. So yeah. All right. So at the beginning of the sermon on Sunday, I talked about a time when I may have missed the mark Talked about the lady with the throwing the Bible at the shelf type of thing. Describe a time in your life when you've missed a mark. Does anyone have a story? It doesn't have to be funny. Does anyone have a story when they missed the mark? Ooh, everyone's being.
Wow. I'll say this.
Let's go, baby.
I can't say that I think I missed the mark.
Yeah.
But a couple of days ago, I went to write a sympathy card
Yeah.
to someone who is, I'm going to say, a devout atheist.
Oh yeah.
And I found it very difficult.
Keep on going.
I found it very difficult.
Don't do that again.
I know. You found it difficult?
Yes.
So why did you find it difficult? That's interesting.
Because I know she knows me very well. She watches me go to church. I know what she thinks of when she sees me leave the driveway.
Yeah.
So the end result was I didn't write. I called.
Okay.
And we talked. But
Okay.
And she baked her a birthday cake. Did you bake her a birthday cake?
no, we're talking about other different people.
Oh, okay.
So then how'd the call go? Like
Very well.
Yeah.
I just let her express her thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she knows where I am coming from here, you know.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Did
That's
you
good.
discuss the Bible at all?
No, not with her. The person who passed away though, was a devout Catholic.
Mm.
And, you know, I was glad for that.
Yeah.
I don't think you missed the mark.
Actually, I think that was better.
Yeah, because the card would have just said what you would normally say. Okay, you know, at this time with the header, blah, 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 blah. And she might have looked at it and said, what does she know? You know?
Yeah.
Where by you calling her and just listening and letting her say what she had to say, I'm sure it was the best thing you could have done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was from the heart.
Yeah. I agree. Anyone else? Does anyone have like kind of a little story? Thanks for sharing, BB.
We probably do, but you gotta remember, we gotta recall.
You got to recall it. You got to recall.
Yeah.
I'm sure we missed the mark at least a dozen
Oh,
times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know.
But remembering yesterday's breakfast is hard. Is that or
Yeah.
today's breakfast?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like that. All right, we'll have to get you guys talking in some way. So, Cheryl, can you grab some Bibles back there and just kind of put them out for some folks? We're gonna look at Luke chapter 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Look at mine, or do I?
You can look at yours if you'd like.
It's not underlined in red.
Oh, okay, we're good.
That's all right.
We're
It's all the same
good.
words.
We're good.
So I was talking to Carol last week during communion, and Carol goes, "Oh, the red letter challenge! It's the Jesus words are in red in those Bibles," and I went, "Oh." Like, so when she said, I was like, I should probably make that more clear.
I haven't seen a Bible since I was a kid that had the red.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
One of my Bibles, and then you put it, and if you have it on your iPad, you know, electronic.
Yeah.
The study Bible I have has it in there.
Yeah, mine doesn't.
Yeah.
I have a defective one.
So that's what this means. What the red letter challenge is like. It's like the words of Jesus challenge.
Where are we in Luke?
So Luke chapter 10, it says verse 25, but this curriculum tends to go kind of short on the stories. Let's see, does it?
Good Samaritan.
Oh, it does the whole thing. It's the parable of the Good Samaritan.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so I'll read this up first. All right, so is everyone there? Luke chapter 10, verse 25. All right, good deal. So on one occasion, an expert of the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he replied. "How do you read it?" He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind. and love your neighbor as yourself. You've answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do this and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself. So he asked Jesus, well, and who's my neighbor? Jesus said this. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. And a priest happened to be going down that same road. And when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. And so too a Levite. When he came to the place, he saw him and passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, remember, you're supposed to go, psst, boo, whenever you see Samaritans. Like a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where this man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. And he went to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. Which of these 3 do you think was the neighbor to the man who fell in the hands of the robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus said, go and do likewise. All right, so the first kind of discussion thing here is both, oh man, I realized I got off our, I read my sheet wrong. Before we discuss that.
You missed the mark.
Well, I missed the mark. Listen, I like to lead by example. Like that. I like to lead by example. So I have the video for us to watch, and on here. So let me get this on here. So Dwayne, you're going to see the video come up. All right, and then share. Yep, there it is. All right, here we go.
So quite a few years ago, I read a book by these Christian authors, and they actually interviewed non-Christians and asked them, what do you think of Jesus followers? What words come to mind? And some of the very first words that came to mind for Christians, for people that follow Jesus, were judgmental, hypocritical, and divisive. And I've never been content with that being the description of Jesus followers. Jesus calls us to represent him into this world. And the frustrating thing is those words are not just missing the mark by a little bit, they're completely opposite of what Jesus stood for and what he was all about. In fact, one of the first words I think of when I think of Jesus is the word grace. Jesus gives us grace, which is a free gift that none of us deserve. Judgment, which is what we're known for, is literally the opposite by definition. It's getting exactly what you do deserve. We're known for our hypocrisy. Jesus is known for good works. We're known for our division. Jesus is known for unifying us. And so how can we not only be missing the mark, but be completely the opposite of what Jesus has called us to be? I've never been content with that, and that's why I started to look back at the red letters of Jesus, those red words in your Bible, and I started to identify, what does Jesus ask his followers to do? And I found some patterns that were in there, and what I want to invite you to come alongside of is I want to challenge you to put the words of Jesus into practice in your life over the next 40 days. That's what this red letter challenge is all about. Putting what Christ says into practice. And I believe that when we do that, we will change people's perception of who Jesus is, and we'll change the story that we're telling of what a great Savior he really is. So I remember when I was 9 years old, I loved basketball, and I loved watching the Dream Team at the Olympics. It was Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, and they were an amazing team. And so going into the Olympics that year, it wasn't who's going to win the gold. Everybody knew the Americans were going to win. It was who's going to win silver or bronze. They won by 44 points a game average, and so they won the gold medal. In the 2004 Athens Olympics, I remember another story about an American shooter named Matthew Emmons, and he was, like the Dream Team, far and away better than the rest of the field. And it got to the point where he was so dominant that we got to the last shots, and all he needed to do to secure the gold medal was simply hit the target anywhere on the page to win. So it turns out that when Matthew Emmons was approaching his last shots at the Olympics, he was focusing on his breathing. Because as a shooter, that's what makes the difference, is you want to slow that heart rate down as much as possible so that in between those beats per minute, you are shooting at just the right time. And so he was so focused on that, and sure enough, bullseye, bullseye, bullseye. He hit the target 3 times, right where he needed to. Except there was one problem. Matthew Emmons crossfired. He was supposed to hit the target over here, and he hit the target over here. He was focused on the wrong target, and he lost it all. And I feel like as followers of Jesus, many times we're so focused and we have good intentions, but we're missing the mark when it comes to what Jesus is asking us to do. And the Red Letter Challenge is going to help you identify what it is that we are called to do as His followers. What's amazing about the Matt Emmons story is you can literally have the greatest marksman in the world, but if you don't know what to focus on, none of it matters. D.L. Moody once said that our greatest fear shouldn't be of failure, but of succeeding at something that doesn't matter. And I think that's the problem with followers of Jesus. We don't really know what we're shooting at. We don't know what to aim for. And so we can look at what people say about us, and we can look at and say, we're not judgmental, we're not hypocritical, we're not divisive. Or what we can say is, you know what, maybe we haven't done things right all the time. And maybe we can do better at this. And after all that Jesus has done for me, I want to be the greatest follower I can. I want to be the greatest representation of who He is. And so I need to change. We all need to change. And that's what the Red Letter Challenge is all about. It's about helping you identify what we can do as followers of Jesus to help change the story we're telling of who Jesus is. The part of the problem is people grab something from over here and try it, and then grab something from over here and try it. But I started thinking, Jesus has all the answers. And so let's just go back to what Jesus said. And as I did that, I noticed 5 main principles, let's call them 5 main targets of what we as His followers can shoot for. And so in the first week of the Red Letter Challenge, we're going to introduce you to those 5 main targets. And then every week following, we're going to give you one of those targets. And so the first one we're going to give you is this target of being with Christ. How important it is to actually spend time with Him in His Word and to pray earnestly and to fast and to take a Sabbath and really rest in who He is and what He's done for us. After we've been with Jesus, we're going to learn about His forgiveness. How can we not when we spend time with Jesus? And so we're going to learn how to be forgiven of everything that we've done and how then we can give that forgiveness to others. After we've been forgiven, man, it makes total sense that we need to go. We need to serve. We need to meet needs in our community. And so we're going to talk about what it means to truly be servants of Jesus. And after we serve, it's amazing how many times Jesus talked about giving. I believe it's impossible to be a stingy Christian, so we're going to take a look at what it means to be a truly generous person. And then we're going to close it up by talking about what it means to go with the message of Jesus, that we are His eyewitnesses and we get to tell people the good news that Jesus loved them, that Jesus died for them, and that Jesus has grace for them. And so I hope that you will join us on the next 40 days for the Red Letter Challenge. I believe that no matter who you are, if you've been a long-time Christian and you're feeling stale in your faith, if you are a brand new Christian, or if you're just wrestling with who Jesus is, I believe that by putting His words into practice, you will find the life that you were made for.
I don't think there's anything else, but let me see. Yeah, that's the end. That's the end. So stop share. All right, and we're back. All right, did that warm you up to anything where you missed the mark at all?
It reminded me of, and it wasn't just me, it was a group of us. It was at a church I went to at one point, and we were trying to bring more people to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
We were, coming up with ideas and stuff, but at some point we realized what we were really trying to do was fill the pews and not, and it was like attendance was down. We need more people to fill the pews and realized, and so we switched what we did. And I think in the long run, it was better.
Yeah.
We just started doing outreach and not, in
Yeah.
the community, as opposed to just trying to get people into the church. The idea of getting them in was, obviously for them to learn, but it was the wrong approach.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
To realize all that. One of the times when I kind of realized that was.
Can I interject? I
Yeah.
agree with her. From the
Yeah.
church we came from, we tried to do contemporary service, bring in a band and all that, just like the New Age churches do today, like faith over here by traditions and that. So,
Yeah.
and it didn't work.
Yeah.
We found that people are more traditional or conservative, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's like speaking to like the worship stuff. Like I think we oftentimes cloak what we want to do in we're doing this for someone else, and I think a lot of the worship wars are that. And I think if a lot of people would just be honest about like, well, I'd like it to be like this, that would be something else, and I know, so yeah, Dwayne, like it's kind of part of this is kind of being honest with how we've done things for a long time. I remember one of the things when I graduated from seminary. Even before going into seminary, it's like I was going to change the world at all. Like that's like it's going to be the best ever, and all that stuff. And one of the things that I realized pretty early on was I was like, well, there's a bunch of people because this area that I was in my first church was very church, like very like Christian. So like at Bentonville, Arkansas, and so all the churches were competitive around each other and stuff like that because of that. And I went, well, there's a lot of people that aren't going to church. Like, where are these people? And I ended up finding those people, and ended up discovering in that the language that I use, the mannerisms that I hold myself in, were all just different. We're all just different, and they couldn't hear it at all. And I ended up making friends with a lot of those folks. And I won't go into all those stories, but I think the biggest story though that I'll tell is these people saw what the churches were doing around them. I don't think it's as big of an issue around here as it was in Bentonville, but a lot of the churches would say like, "Hey, we're going to go help out with this event," and they wouldn't. And that event ended up not having any like press at it or anything like that, and the church would pull out last minute.
Whoa. Ooh.
Yeah. And
So they were in it for the publicity?
yeah. And if you look at a lot of what we do, like a lot of times we do it for the publicity. It's like, oh, let's have a big event or something like that. And so that's just something that I saw, and I ended up changing. I ended up taking churchiness out of my verbiage and how I act so much that I have a professional coach. His name is Vic Hippie. And Vic Hippie says, you're probably bringing anxiety to your own congregation. You should probably put some of that back in, because I had completely like just gone away from that, because I was like, there's so little hope here, and that's kind of like, it just reminds me of all the times when I was growing up that I really thought that I had all the answers, that I really thought if people would just act this way, things would get better. That and essentially all that is like, if people can just act like me, then things will be better. And it took me actually searching for like, well, what's actually going on, that I saw something different than that. And so I still don't have all the answers now, but that changed my preaching. I'm not perfect at this. But if you notice, it's very rare that I'm like, you got to do this or you're going to the bad place. It's very rare that I'm like that. Because I think a lot of people have a lot of hurts and a lot of, well, to put church language onto it, they face the law in their lives a lot. And I kind of view it as my job to kind of give them good news, give people good news, give them something to go on. Because I think if people can grab that good news, then I think they'll spread that good news. That's just my own story there, and kind of what all this kind of means to me. And because I have a lot of my life where I would describe as missing the mark, and I'm sure I'll look 30 years from now and go, you didn't know anything. But yeah. So in our story of the Good Samaritan, both the priest and the Levite were trained up theologically the right way, but they missed the mark. When there was someone actually in need, they did completely the opposite of what God wanted them to do. Part of the problem in Christian faith is that we don't know what targets to shoot for and what it truly means to follow Jesus. So the Red Alert Challenge has identified 5 targets to shoot for. The being, the forgiving, being, forgiving, serving, giving, and going. So take a look at these 5 targets that we'll be shooting for over the next 5 weeks together. Think about your life right now. Which one of these 5 will be the easiest for you, and which of the 5 weeks do you expect to stretch you the most or be the most difficult for you? What do you think?
Forgiving.
Forgiving? Why do you say forgiving, Lee?
I struggle with that every single day.
Yeah.
Anyone that's mad
Yeah.
at us. Jean, are you listening?
Yeah.
I don't know nothing.
Yeah, it's very, very hard for me. When somebody crosses me,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
And I struggle with it all the time. I'll hang you first. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read that, I was like, oh, I'm going to be into this one.
You'll hang them first, then put an oily cross on them next.
Yeah.
Like that. That's.
No, it's very hard for me. I intellectualize it. Well, this makes perfect sense. And it does make sense, but it's not Christian.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I also struggle with that.
With forgiving?
Yeah. And you think, you get yourself into a place where you said, oh, I've forgiven this person, but man, the sneaky little comments come, and, you think you've forgiven, but it is a struggle to really forgive the way the red letter would want us to forgive. What our idea or what my idea of forgiving is missing the mark, perhaps. Yeah.
Me, Pastor, because I have a problem with it too. You can forgive, but you can't forget.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. My question always is, should you forget?
Try to.
Like, there are people in my life where you forgive them, but they're going to do it again and again and again.
Yeah.
So, should you forget?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Is there a way that forgiving or needing to forgive someone, if you look at the other side of it, isn't that being like judgmental?
Can you say that again?
If you're looking at the need to forgive someone,
Mm-hmm.
isn't that like you're being judgmental of them?
That you need to forgive them? I maybe, I don't know. Well, what do you think? Like that's.
Well,
Good answer.
when I see someone doing something that I disapprove of or I think should be a different way,
Mhm.
I look at seeing all around the consequences.
Mhm.
But, and my mother taught me this, pretend for 3 minutes that you're walking in their shoes.
Mhm.
And then look and see the difference between what that is and what you think.
Mhm.
And sometimes it brings me to a judgmental kind of thought.
Mhm.
Maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
Well-
I don't know.
No, go ahead. It's just, I think it's important to, in order to not be judgmental, or to try not to be, that you do sometimes look from the other person's
Mhm.
point of view. And sometimes that will, when you think about it, and then you really don't necessarily need to be forgiving them because you actually understand.
Mhm.
So it makes it into a different situation. But if it doesn't, then you have to figure it.
I think also some of it comes from our inability to see forgiveness for ourselves for stuff that has happened in our past. That we may believe that there are things that are done that we have a hard time getting past. I don't know. Or if we had done what those people did or something like that, that we would feel that way. I don't know. Like, yeah, what about you being forgiven? Like is that a difficult idea?
Sometimes you question your deserving of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, could I have done something different
Yeah.
so that I wouldn't be in this spot?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
Well, that's where communication comes in. If you are willing to say, well, I said this or did this, or ask the person, why did you say that or why did you do that? Make people accountable for their actions.
Mm-hmm.
That goes a long way. And sometimes we just want to nurse our grief with that person, maybe for something totally unrelated, maybe something that they did 10 years ago, like you said, and we're harboring that ill will,
Yeah. So I don't want to take anything away from the coming up weeks, but like that's when we stay bitter with someone, a lot of times that bitterness gives us power over them. Yeah, that kind of unforgiveness, that type of thing.
And our own self-righteousness.
In our own self-righteousness, yeah. Like that's definitely like a place. Yeah, that's for I say this a lot, but for me it's the shower. I don't know what it is about the shower, but that's the place where it's just like all of a sudden every nasty thing that anyone's ever said to me comes back.
wash it away.
In the shower, it's nice to wash it away.
Like that's, yeah. Well, I think that's a time where I'm not actually thinking about anything.
Yeah.
And it all just comes back in. And so where I'm not like just have a video burning in the background or anything like that. Like that's
Electronics are all shut off.
yeah. Like that's, I don't know, at least for me, that's where it is. I don't, does anyone have a different one? What about being? How do you guys understand being? Being's this coming up week, so I'm kind of hot on being. We just wrote sermons on being and all that stuff.
That's hard for me.
That's hard for you?
Yeah.
What are you able to describe why that's kind of hard?
Oh, it's just maybe not feeling that two-way.
Oh, okay.
I'm a verbal person,
Yeah.
I want to hear something back. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one to just sit and be complacent and meditate.
Ah, yeah.
I'm more
That's
of a-
language of a doer right there,
Yes,
right? Yeah, yeah. Just sitting and being complacent.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So that's hard for me.
Mm.
The going, the doing, the serving, the forgiving, I can do all that.
Yeah.
I was the baby.
You got to make it happen.
Yeah, so all the older siblings,
Yeah.
I had to adjust, but just being, that's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I find a lot of times nature does that. I'll be just sitting in the lanai and I'll see a pretty bird or something cute. I'll watch a bird trying to build this nest, and at that point, I speak with God.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow, look at this, look at what He's created,
Mm-hmm.
His immenseness.
Yeah.
Wow, look at how He put it all together, and there's the gecko running across the grass, and there's the bird chasing him, and all the pieces fit, and it's the enormity of God that I feel very, not insignificant in the sense of not being worthy, but
Mm-hmm.
just insignificant compared to the universe.
So that you would put more of a being, more of a positive place for you, and then you're like, like that.
Actually,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Actually, being difficult is probably the one I have the most trouble with because of the worldly influences.
Now, what do you mean by that?
Everything going on around you
Mhm.
is pulling you away from time you
Okay.
could spend in the Bible
Yeah.
or time you could spend doing other things like serving.
Yeah.
And so I have this little saying, I actually took a picture of it the other day to share with people about setting our priorities according to the will of God.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings me back to what I should look at when I'm not being what I really could truly be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that?
No, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. I got to keep all my. I really resonate with being like that. That's something that really. I think a lot of. Like pastors and like a lot of people of my ilk are more of a are more in the like doing category, like they're getting things done and all that stuff. I resonate a lot with the being. Some of you heard me say this before. I'm not going to use all my being stuff. I got to keep it for next week. But that's my doer right there. But I. One of the theories about where God's name in the Old Testament came from, which is Yahweh, and they never said it, so we don't really know where it came from. But that sounds kind of like breath. That Yahweh. So it's like Yahweh, Yahweh. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Is that funny that I had that verse from a past study
Oh, yeah?
in front of me?
There you go.
Read it to them.
The first chapter of what's that?
Seriously.
I don't know what that is. But the Yahweh, the God I am. Oh, and the First Kings. Yeah, that was probably when we were going through all First Kings stuff and all
I
that.
don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, like that's
Attitude of God.
yeah. That's one of my things. That's a very being statement. That when we get so enamored with doing and having to do the right thing, like your church, there's a lot of our churches, that they're so enamored with having to get people in the door, or do the right thing, or do all these things, like that. It seems very little that we'll sit and and just be sometimes. And so like that, I resonate with being a lot, sometimes more than the others. So I don't know. Does anyone know So we talked about like kind of being and like, how about serving? How does anyone feel about serving? Positive, negatives?
I think it's going to be one of those things where I don't have a problem serving,
Mm-hmm.
but do I have lines where, well, I'll do this or I'll do that, but I won't do that, you know, that sort of thing. So that might be,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, stepping out of my comfort zone to serve.
Yeah.
I think that's with anyone.
Yeah.
We have our guide, you know, what do you mean you want me to go to Guatemala? You know?
You're right.
What do you mean?
Yeah, Gail was good at that.
Yeah.
I think one of the easiest ways of serving
Mhm.
that personally that God could lead us toward is simply listening to others. Like you say, contact those that are, you know, not able to come to church or homebound or something like that. And if we just spend a little time listening and let them speak just like you did, I think that would be a way of serving we don't even think of, and everybody can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because a lot of times, well, that's what counseling is. Counseling a lot of times is just sitting still and just restating what the person said. Because oftentimes the best counseling is just letting the person hear themselves. You know, that's kind of counseling 101. That's all the counseling I have. But that's
Well,
kind
because
of,
sometimes you just want to be heard.
yeah.
So that's
Mhm.
what you need,
Mhm.
just to be heard.
A lot
And
of people figure out the answer to their problem just by saying the problem to somebody else.
yeah.
Will come to next step.
Mhm. Mhm.
What is going?
What is going?
Getting started.
Like so going is like the end of the Gospels, the end of Acts. This is like go and make disciples. You know, like all that idea of going out and take this. And so like next week for being, it really like before you can go, you've got to be. And so the idea there is that it's getting turned around. So that, like comparing it to your church, like you were saying, that you know it may have gotten the cart before the horse, where they're wanting to go before there was forgiveness, before there was giving, before there was all of those things, before you were being, like it's like, well, we got to get people in these doors. And the way I kind of understand being and forgiving is that you're being okay in your own skin, that you're being okay as yourself, and that God wants to be with you as yourself. And I think once you start getting a taste of that, then going's a lot easier, because you're not trying to prove yourself anymore. You're not trying to prove yourself. You're not trying to become holy anymore, because you realize you already are. Like you're going just because, like, well, I realized all this stuff now. Like, it's good news. Let's give people good news, And I'm not doing it so that the giving at the church looks better or anything like that. I'm doing it just because, like, hey, I think this is actually good news. Yeah, dude.
I think it's so important for the church to serve the community,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the way the seed is planted so many times. Just, you don't have to, sometimes you don't even have to say much, but if there's a group of them that say, oh, where are they from? Oh, they're from home. They're working today. Isn't that wonderful? You just.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's kind of hard to disagree. I mean, you think about stuff that we've done in the past here even, which is amazing, but like and we can't just let that rest on our laurels, but that's kind of going forward. Talking about all these connected with that story from Luke with the Good Samaritan. What do you think of that story? Where do you see yourself in it? Where do you see us in it? And I don't know. What do you think? I'm kind of leaving it open ended.
I'm remembering when you pass somebody that's homeless
Mm-hmm.
and they have this card in front of them saying, help, I need work, or help, I need food.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't figure out a way to give them something, are you really serving? Are you really going? And sometimes you have to evaluate, is that their way of making money without actually doing anything and paying taxes? Or is that somebody really in need? And somehow or other, I can usually, sometimes I'll go around and go back just to be able to open my window and give them something. But I don't know if that truly answers what you were getting at, but that's kind of an example that I see.
I'm not getting at anything specific. I'm just getting you guys talking.
That's good.
Actually, I wind up, I do almost the same thing.
Yeah.
If I see somebody there and everything, like, that I'm out of work or whatever,
Yeah.
so on and so forth, holding up a sign. And if you look at them and everything, they just look and say, okay, maybe I can hand them $5,
Yeah.
whatever, or something like that and everything, just to go ahead, because it's not going to break me.
Mm-hmm.
But, it may help this person and everything to go ahead and, either get something to eat or whatever. But, and then there are other times and everything there where, you look at a person and you see, I've seen it at times and everything where you have a person there and then you've got like a young child.
Yeah.
And everything there. And that more or less breaks my heart and everything. So that's something that I'll go around the block and try and go ahead.
Yeah.
But then I gotta go.
Oh, yeah, okay, good. Well, bye.
See you, Gene. Thanks for
Of
coming.
course.
We'll be done here soon too, but thanks for coming.
The only other thing we have to be careful of is not to do I'm serving, I'm throwing money.
Mm-hmm.
Where, a lot of times we'll do that. We'll just say, okay, well, I'll write a check, or,
Yeah.
you can't let that become how you serve.
Yeah.
I don't want to enable.
Yes, that's the word that I was thinking of. I have, I have someone in my family who, it's a struggle because you can solve all her problems by writing a check. And then you struggle with, well, is that really what God wants? Is that her best self, to do that? And it's a struggle to know what the right thing to do is.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And will that solve the problems? Like you don't know that. Yeah. Short term.
She used the word enabling,
Yeah.
and you struggle with that, between doing the Christian thing. What is the Christian thing to do?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And when I read the Good Samaritan story, I kind of, one of the things I think that helps me read it now is not viewing these people as other folks, like seeing myself it's not hard for me to see him in the righteous folks that pass by the Samaritan. I mean, not the Samaritan, the guy who was beat up. Like that's not, because they're technically not doing anything wrong. Like, because if they stop, they're going to have to go through all the ritual cleansings, and they're not going to be able to do their work for a while, and all those things, and like that's, and they end up, in order to stay righteous, they end up doing the things that God doesn't want them to do. They end up missing how to serve God. That's the brilliance of that small little parable. Like that's, and I think about myself when have I been focused on doing something holy? Like I think something that gets said a lot, and and I never say these words, but it always comes out of me in a different way. But like when we say, well, oh, those people just need Jesus, like that's we almost are just passing by them, by saying that. We're like, oh, I have the solution, but like I don't, like that's, I don't know if that makes any sense at all there.
Do you wonder in a different era if the priest should have stopped and at least prayed?
Well, I think Jesus is saying that those two guys should have probably did what the Samaritan did. Like that's.
They followed the letter of the law, but not the meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Not
right.
the love.
But I mean, if
Yeah,
that
not the
existed
love.
in like 100 years later or something, the priest you think would have at least stopped and prayed, even if they weren't able to help for whatever reason.
I don't know, but I still think even if they had,
They should have helped.
like, I think that's his whole idea there, and he's saying that about the Samaritan, and the reason why I have everyone always go boo around Samaritans, because they were hated back then. Like like these people, these people are hated. It's not hard to look out at the news today and see groups of people that really hate each other and are distrusting of one another. And whatever camp you're in, everyone's got their enemies in there. That Samaritan is that enemy. And them being the righteous one in the story, is the hard way to go. And I think that's why, and that's what we're trying to look at here is like, all right, how do I, as we go into being, how do I lower my own pride enough to be with Jesus coming forward, to first see that I'm fully accepted by him, that me, like me, not the other people around, like me. Because the closing thought here, it's a quote from Leo Tolstoy that says, everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. Like that's huge. And I think that statement that will often go through our minds, like, oh, those people need Jesus. That's all focused on other people and fixing them. Is we just finished reading The Great Divorce, the lady with her husband, like that's like that's the like that was just she had her project with the husband, like all those things. So that's why I spent time there. Let's see. So yeah, like it's pretty much 12:02. We got a little bit of late start today, but I appreciate it. Anyone have any like closing kind of thoughts or anything like that? All right.
I just love that it's a 40 day.
40 days, yeah, I know, right? 40 days, 40 nights, 40 years in the wilderness, 40 days with Jesus in the wilderness. Lots of good 40s out there. And this thing was almost tailor-made for Lent.
Which is why we're doing it now, right?
Which is why we're doing it now. Which is why we're doing it now. Listen, I go on my own path, all right? I go on my own path. We're kind of, the beginning of the school year is always kind of a fresh time for people to start things. And so that's why we did this. And that's why if everyone likes it, he's got 5 others in the pipeline. So that's, and for those of you who don't know, I haven't seen it on his website, his next series that's out now is called Being. So it's a full 40 days on being. And then you can imagine where he's going from there.
Should have done that first.
Well, you got to set it all up.
Yeah.
And so like if this is good, this could be a good beginning of the school year for everyone going forward. We'll see. This is just me rambling. But coming up Lent, we're doing the Gospel of Mark. Like that'll be That'll be from the end of Christmas all the way up through Easter. We're doing the Gospel of Mark. Love the Gospel of Mark. And it's all about power and our fixation of it and how vapid it actually is what Gospel of Mark is all about. All right, so we have that. So are there any like prayer requests or anything like that? Like that anyone has? Please remember the Vanderlips. They are, I mean, we got two of our people in the hospital right now. Like that's scary.
How old are they, Pastor?
They're 40s. And he's they both exercise a lot. They're both very healthy. And he rides his bicycle every weekend. He goes at least 100 miles. So it's not like they're not in shape. You know, they don't fit that MO.
That's
so
what's scary.
yeah. So like that's so keep them in your prayers. All that. If I can be, like keep Coley in your prayers, that she has good habits around not getting sick. But yeah, she's in that school every day.
Keep my son, he's a teacher as well.
Yeah, just keep all the teachers. Remember all of them.
My sister-in-law's just been diagnosed with breast cancer. So
Oh man.
she's making decisions this week.
So that we won't. I'll probably have stopped the video already by now. We won't. She doesn't want us to make a big deal of this, but Shirley Mullins has breast cancer, and so that's. She was keeping it really quiet for a long time, and now she's about to get on chemotherapy and all that stuff. She's making it a little bit more well known. So if you guys remember who Shirley is, does everyone know who she is? She's taller, short crop hair.
They bring their granddaughter.
They usually bring their granddaughter to
Were
church.
they at church on Sunday?
Yeah.
Bernie is her
She's
husband.
president of LWML.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
he's the one that says something in the front.
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes.
And
Yeah,
brought the granddaughter up, was trying to get her to do right at.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So she. I think she's a little scared of that right now.
Does she not want anyone tonight?
No, she just didn't want to. She didn't want to make a scene.
I've had breast cancer twice. I didn't do chemo, but I did radiation.
Yeah.
Weeks ago, they just tested me again because my tumor markers were all high.
Mm,
But they did a PET scan, a CAT scan, it came back negative.
okay.
But I was all worried.
Yeah. Yeah. So keep her in the prayers. Give us all in the prayers going forward. So teachers and all of that. So we'll and Dwayne will always keep Dwayne's wife is homebound. That's why he comes in on the Zooms for us, and because he goes in and checks on her every now and then with the doctors and all. So we'll keep his wife in her prayers too.
Yeah, today is the nurse visiting day, and she's just hanging in there. She's been at home hospice since January, so she's just hanging in there and doesn't eat anything. Only has like a cup of soup a day and no solid. She can't eat anything. She has pulmonary hypers. I can't say that, but her throat doesn't allow her to swallow hard foods because it doesn't know if it goes to the lungs or to the stomach.
Oh man.
You know, when you breathe, it goes to your lungs, but when you eat, it goes to your stomach.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's had pneumonia a couple times on that, and she's just whittling down because she can't eat.
Yeah.
Can she eat applesauce?
Pardon?
Have you tried applesauce?
Yeah, she does. She has a cup of soup a day that I get. We're in a relative, the assisted living, and we're independent living. I'm in a house. I'm in a 3-bedroom house. That's where I have an office here. But she has a cup of soup from them. I usually get a meal, and she has applesauce in the evening and a little pudding. And that's about it. And drinks 2 Cokes a day, 2 little glasses.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And I think she's found a vodka bottle once in a while. She puts
Oh,
it
yeah?
in the I says, I'm not drinking that much. And she says, well, I need to calm down a little, helps. And she has also scoliosis of the spine, lower spine. And it's gotten so much worse that she lays down most of the day from about 10 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon to get up and just sit a little bit. And because her back hurts her so much. And when she had a cyst on her back, that's when she found out. She was about 65 years old at the time. And she said, how'd I get that? They says, well, ask your mother. You know, it's a birth defect. And at that age, it was too much of an operation with pins and rods and needles and screws and everything. So
Yeah.
So that doesn't help much either.
Yeah. Man, that's a lot. So
yeah, but we did make it to our 50th anniversary back in June. So grateful for that.
that's nice. That's nice. And remind everyone what her name is again.
Pardon?
Remind everyone what her name is again.
Cheryl, Cheryl.
Cheryl. So that's all right.
She's a big LCMS Lutheran. She grew up in the church, went to St. Mark's Lutheran in Cleveland, went to Concordia University in Ann Arbor. At that time, it was Concordia College, right next to U of M. And so, she's been head of altar guilds and did a lot of flower arranging for churches and that. So, and right now she can't even attend church. I asked her, she said, I couldn't just sit there and that. So
Yeah.
she's more or less home now.
Yeah, that's hard. Well, we'll keep her in the prayers. Also pray for Susan Becker.
I was gonna ask about that.
All right, so Susan, Susan's full time in the nursing home, but all right. Well, let's say a prayer as we end. Jesus, we thank you that you've gathered us all here together, Lord. As we look at the words of Jesus, as we talk about these things together, as we go through each of the days of the challenge, Lord, open our hearts to the ways that that we may have been like those Pharisees, and so that we just passed by people. Lord, continue to those words that we're kind of concerned about going through. Lord, give us stamina to see through them. And Lord, let us not just lean on our good words more than we should. And Father, for all of the prayer requests, for the teachers, for Cheryl and for Susan and all the others, Lord, just continue to be with them and bless them and keep them. Oh yeah, Shirley, that was the other one. That just put your healing hand on them, and that they would know that you are with them and that they could be with you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming to the study, and perhaps it'll be better next time. We'll see.